Hello, welcome to the Freedom from Anger podcast. I'm very excited about this episode. I have a wonderful guest. His name is Dan Deluzneski. He is a retired lieutenant in the U.S. Secret Service with over 24 years of experience. He was a special operation officer at the White House Historical Tours. He is the former coordinator, emergency management, safety, and security in Pinellas County schools. 140 schools in that county, 104,000 students. He's observed, supervised, and coordinated over 100 active shooter school drills. And he is also the author of The First 5 Minutes, the School Shooting Survival Guide for Administrators and Teachers. And he is here to help educate us on emergency situations such as active shooters. And it is my pleasure. I have Dan here with us. How you doing today, Dan?
Very good, James. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, I had a chance to pick up your book on Amazon. It was a great read, easy read, very straightforward, common sense. So we discussed a little bit before we started recording. I'm outside of Nashville, and earlier this year, March 27th, we had an active shooter at the Covenant School where 6 people died. One of the main questions I was asked was if you were familiar with it and if you've seen any of the body cam footage or like the response time. I think it took about 14 minutes from the call to the police to engaging the shooter.
Sure. Yeah. We go back to the reason I wrote the book, and it was
Okay.
after I had been with Pinellas County for about 40 years. And during that time, we had some of the most major school shootings. The one up in Newtown, Sandy Hook, was right next door to where I grew up and actually where my sister lives there in Newtown. And she substituted at that school previously, not at the time, but she had previously substituted there. So that was close to home. And that started the process where people were like, wait a minute. Someone went in and killed school children, young, elementary school children. Not that, killing high school kids or adults is worse, but when you think about it, just these, little kids, it just really went to the heart of, what we're dealing with here in this country. And then here in Florida was even closer to home where I live now was Parkland, the high school, where they had the shooting there. So when that happened, okay, things happened where I was working and the legislature down here in Florida said, you know what, we're going to change over and put the police in charge of school safety, which I disagreed with, even though I'm former law enforcement. I'd rather have private citizens dealing with that because police are reactive. They're not so much proactive. Anyway, then Uvalde happened, and that was a total disaster from beginning to end. I mean, everyone focused on the law enforcement end of it, but that was a disaster from the beginning. The school had repair issues, door lock issues, principal who didn't do the lockdown. It just was a whole disaster from beginning to end. Anyway, once that happened, my wife said, you vent. And that's the reason why I wrote the book. And again, it's a guidebook. It is not an administrative manual. You'll see a lot in these schools where when you go in and ask, the media will usually say after an event, oh, do you have a school safety plan? Yep. It's right over here on the shelf. And it'll be like a 400-page book that sits there collecting dust. Who the heck's going to read something like that? All this legalese. I wanted something short, practical, easy to read for teachers and administrators and parents and students if they want to read it also, because it's always good to have that knowledge. Just an easy read. They gave you the practical information you need to keep yourself safe. So when the title of it came from of FBI data. The FBI did this data over so many years and came out that said, on average, most of your school shootings happen between 3 to 5 minutes. And when you think about it, 5 minutes doesn't seem very long. It doesn't. I mean, 5 minutes goes by in a heartbeat. When you're involved in a chaotic situation like that, 5 minutes seems like an hour. I mean, you are just, because there is so much noise and action and bad stuff happening. So when you talk about it, in this kind of context, it doesn't seem like it's very long, but when you're involved in it, it's a long time. I mean, I went through 9/11 at the White House. And that was, again, just the whole country, again, just was like, it was bizarre what was happening. So when something chaotic happens like that, it just seems like it's lasting forever. But anyway, back to the matter at hand. Yes, I was familiar with the Nashville shooting. And again, that school was prepared. They did the right thing. Some of the things that happened, it just, everything's not going to run perfectly. I mean, but they did the right thing. Now, I was told and I read that there was an individual who came to the school who did a safety and security assessment. And those front doors, they did mention, hey, these glass front doors, no, that's not going to work because it happened at Sandy Hook, shoot out the glass and they're in. And because, as you know, the media first said, okay, this, and this, and it wasn't until afterwards they said, okay, yes, it's not to the blame the safety and security person. He did mention that those glass doors had to be taken care of. And apparently that was on the radar that they were going to fix those glass doors, but I would say it didn't happen. But once that shooter was inside, once you're in, I mean, you're in and you're looking for easy victims. And I don't know why the principal came out and challenged this shooter unarmed. I don't know. However, from my background and dealing with the number of schools I had, I can understand why they did that, because I'll tell you, especially elementary school principals, they feel that it's their family and they're going to go. They're going to go out. They don't want to feel helpless. They want to go. But I tell people all the time, look, you got to keep yourself safe. I don't do something like that. But from the beginning to end of that incident, they did the right thing. They had the doors locked as best they could. I understand children still got killed, but as best they could, they had things locked down. And the police response was amazing. To me, that was basically textbook. Came in, did what they had to do, got to the shooter, and took care of business. So as tragic as it was, yes. Could there have been more people killed? Yeah, absolutely. The police did the right thing. Those guys are heroes. And I think they deserve all the accolades that they get.
I couldn't agree with you more. Being in law enforcement myself in Nashville, I was definitely proud to see our guys really shine, even though it's very unfortunate circumstances. Because like you said, the Uvalde, I don't know what you call that. That was just incompetence across the board on that. Going through reading your book, you mentioned the whole run, hide, fight mentality when it comes to active shooting. I know that in the Covenant shooting, some people fled with the students outside and hid in the trees. Others decided to lock down. So what's your thoughts on the whole run, hide, fight?
When this thing first came out, and James, as you know, run, hide, fight was created for businesses, rated by the Department of Homeland Security. It was not created for schools. That was not what it was targeted for. It was created for businesses and for adults to have that knowledge to be able to run, hide, or fight. And there is a video that came out years ago. It was done by the Houston Police Department, which is very powerful, which shows what you need to do. You know, if you can run. If you can hide. You have to fight when the intruder comes in, fight. Well, somehow it transferred over to schools. And once that happened, you're thinking to yourself, okay, but if they enter a middle or elementary school and they get into the room, you know, little children trying to fight this person, it didn't make any sense. At first, because it was so new for the school system, myself and the people that I dealt with, we had actual school police force. We thought, okay, for high schools, this might work because you've got high schools nowadays are as big as college campuses, and something like that might work. However, as time went on, and especially after the Parkland shooting, you're like, I don't think this is a good idea, because if you looked at the research of the Parkland shooting, there's all kinds of bad stuff going on with that. The media, and there's also books out there that said that Parkland did not have a plan in place. That was wrong. Parkland had a plan in place. Just a month prior, they had done a lockdown drill. However, during their lockdown drill, they did not take into account if a fire alarm went off. It just was something that was not, you can't plan for everything. That's why you drill. Anyway, what happened was when the shooter got there, and either accidentally or on purpose, I still think it was an accident. I don't think on purposely pulled the fire alarm. I think he shot out something and fire alarm went off. And it was at that time, they were going into a lockdown, and then the fire alarm went off. And now they're like, wait a minute, if we got the fire, we got to get out of here. So there was complete confusion. You had some people, again, that were locking down, others that were like, no, we have to get out of here. So a couple of teachers that they had spoken to afterwards said, well, yeah, we went through the training and we thought it was another training exercise. They didn't think it was real. Once they found out it was real, some of the teachers said, okay, I hear shots on whatever, north side of the building, so we're going to exit out the other side. Well, they made the mistake of not realizing that those shots were echoed. So they were actually going towards the shooter. So at this point, I would say I changed my mind completely in just the past 6 months. The run, hide, fight is actually bogus. It should not be used in schools. It's something that is created a lot of liability, a lot of lawsuits, because even during the drill, when you do something like that, you're facing liability and lawsuits. It was not created for schools. It's easy enough to look up the Department of Education. The Department of Education does not recommend run, hide, fight. Now, you may have other organizations for businesses that are recommended. It's not recommended for schools anymore. It doesn't work because, look, common sense. Let's say you're a teacher. I'd be glad to have you talk to your dad about this. If you're a teacher and you have one thing you have to do, just one in your mind, and you go through an emergency and you drill for that emergency, what's going to happen? You're a former veteran. Your implicit memory is going to kick in. And your training is going to kick in. Now, I understand we can't train teachers as, military or have a police sense of mind, but your training, however much training or drilling you do, is going to kick in. You're going to go, okay, I know I got to lock that door, turn the lights off, pull the curtains down, put the kids over in the corner, keep everybody safe and quiet until this damn thing is over and somebody comes and unlocks the door. Now, if you're that same teacher and you go to them, you know what? Yeah, lockdowns are okay, but we got to change things up. Let's have options. We're going to give you options. Here's another option. You can run if you feel that the shooter is in a different part of the school. So now you're putting the pressure and the liability on the teacher to say, yeah, I think I saw the shooter on the other side of the campus. I'm going to take my 25 to 30 grade 6, grade 3, whatever grade children, and take them out of the classroom, a locked classroom, by the way, and bring them out into a hallway where they're going to hear horrible stuff. They're going to see horrible things. They're going to run. There's no walking. In drill, you're just walking. There's no walking. You are going to run in this chaotic situation towards an exit and probably funneled into an exit you're trying to get out of with these kids who half are screaming, crying, just some will probably freeze and refuse to go with you. Why would you put a teacher in that situation? Why? You just left a perfectly safe classroom. No shooter has breached a locked door. It happened one time in the past, 30 years. It was on a Native American reservation where they were targeting. So they shot out the lock to get into that classroom. A shooter, it takes too much time to shoot out a lock. Way too much time. Their mind is just going and spinning because they know the police are on their way. They want easy victims. They want open doors where they can get in and just shoot as many as possible because they want numbers. So they're not going to shoot through a locked door. Now, if you've got a classroom, obviously, with these big observing windows, and I used to have an argument with my county about these windows that they put in there. It was just, they weren't thinking. They weren't thinking about safety. They were thinking more of, I don't know what the heck they were thinking about, putting these big windows in. Anyway, but just on the subject, back to the subject, run, hide, fight. No, disagree that it should be used at all in schools. And it's just something that's got to change up. Now, the problem with what's happening, Jane, we get into this subject also, is that things are kind of breaking up into factions. We're basically back to ground zero, I believe. You've got the factions that want to do a knee-jerk reaction of technology. Hey, we had a shooting at the school next door. Parents come in. Something has to be done. Knee-jerk reaction, metal detectors. Yep. We're going to get metal detectors to come in, and I'm satisfied. The administration is satisfied. My boss is satisfied. Parents, there you go. You got metal detector, or you got camera, or you got some other whiz bang security out there, some button you push or something else that you got out there. It's not about technology. It's the human factor. The human factor is the only thing that's going to keep kids safe, keep yourself safe, and keep schools safe. They call it, I don't know what they call them, security something about these metal detectors. Metal detectors are just a panacea. If I'm someone who is crazy enough that's going to get into that school and I'm hell bent to get into that school, you think a metal detector is going to stop me? You think a metal detector is going to stop me either after school hours during a sporting event, or my buddy opens up a side door and I'll slip that backpack in, or somebody orders a pizza, or a teacher steps out for a smoke? Any door that's open, I'm going to stick that backpack in there that's probably got a weapon in it and let it sit there, or after school or whenever. Metal detector is just what they call security theater. It's just something that looks good. Look, this is what we did. This is the money we spent on it. And oh, we got a grant, so we didn't spend that much money. And as we've seen, easy enough to research, they don't stop everything. They may stop some weapons. They can't stop edge weapons and any kind of metal that is the way it's set up to go through, knives. It's bogus. So it's the human factor. You have to, and again, you're a military veteran. And I went through all kinds of drilling in the Secret Service. And of course, I don't know if you were like me. I hated it because you had to get up early. Oh, God, we got to do this over again. And you would do it over and over and over again. I mean, we were the only agency that has to qualify our shooting every month. Every month we'd have to qualify with our weapon. But after a while, it just became normal. And I talk in the book about implicit memory. And for people who don't know, implicit memory is just something like you put a tie on, you put your seatbelt in the car. It's something you don't think about. You just do it. You know, people that, what's the process of putting on a seatbelt? Well, you do this. No, you just grab it. That's what implicit memory is about. So I encourage school systems to drill as much as possible. Now, that's another part of the subject, because you'll get complaints from parents or administrators saying, well, we're drilling too much. My child says they get anxious when they're going to do a lockdown drill. Okay, I'm old school. I was born in the 50s. By the 60s, when the Cuban Missile Crisis, when they're ready for nuclear bombs at Cuba, 90 miles up the coast of Florida, we're going out in the hallway doing duck and cover drills out in the hallway because of some nuclear threat. As a kid, okay, it's just something you do. I'm not sitting there thinking, oh my God, I'm getting anxious because we're going to get bombed. No, I'm just sitting here grab assing with your buddies. You just want this thing over with. And the teachers are like, geez, we got to get back to teaching. What the hell? So nowadays with this helicopter parenting, look, I understand there's a lot of mental health issues. That's out of my lane. That's another faction that, that's another separate issue. But if you want if you're taking your kids and bringing them to public schools, you have to drill. This is what you have to do. You drill so it becomes implicit, because when something happens and that announcement goes out, your brain works and a light switch goes off. Okay, I know what I got to do. The door should already be locked. I always encourage that. Classroom doors should be locked during teaching time anyways. Left door is locked. There's a little window in the door. You cover that up. Cover the windows. You silence your phone. You turn your computers off. You sit quietly on the floor and you wait. And the waiting is the worst part. Absolute worst part, because you're panicking. You're hearing all kinds of crap going on, all kinds of noise, all kinds of bad stuff going on. You might hear pounding on that door. You might hear announcement. No, you ignore all that. You do not open that door. You don't listen to any announcements. I don't care if it's a fire alarm. The one thing that we had confusion about was the fire alarm issue, because after Parkland, they were all confused about that. And we figured out, okay, look, fire alarm goes off during a lockdown drill. Do this. If you don't smell smoke, just stick your head out in the hallway for a few seconds. Okay, everything seems fine. I'm going to lock this door up again and we're done. We're not leaving. Okay. That was basically an easy thing. Just use common sense on something. You don't smell smoke, just stay in the classroom, keep the door locked. Okay. And the announcement thing was another one, because I talked to in fact, I just talked to a girl last week. She's in Georgia. She said, we go through the lockdown drill, and then at the end, they make an announcement. It's over. I'm like, what? But you do what? I said, no, you don't listen to any announcements. Someone has to physically come with a key, whether it's the administration or police, to unlock that door to tell you the lockdown is now over. Please wait until the entire campus is completed. So if we're going to run drills, and what, I'm sorry, I go off on kind of a tangent here, James. I apologize. But I've had drills where they'll say, look, the average drill for a high school, we're talking probably 1,000 kids. The average drill for a lockdown drill, the best I've ever done is 40 minutes. 40 minutes, which is pretty darn good. That's running the entire drill, everything. Everybody's unlocked. We're going to go do our after action meeting. 40 minutes. I mean, it's perfect. Well, it happened that way sometimes. Sometimes it could take up to 1 hour. So that hour, those teachers, their mind is thinking, oh my, I got a test coming up. I got to grade this, the pressure that they're under, especially if they're a low graded school to get back to teaching. So what they'll do is they'll pre-plan. They'll find out when the drill is and they'll prepare. They'll already have the lights off. They'll already have the door thing. I mean, everything we pre-planned to get this damn thing over with, because they're thinking, what, like everybody says, oh, it'll never happen here. It's not going to happen here. Why do we even drill? So that mindset is like, look, how many fire drills do you do a year? Down to Florida, you got to do one a month. One a month. Okay. When's the last time they had a fire that even killed a child? It was hundreds of years ago. You've got fire suppression systems. You've got doors. You've got walls. That fire's not going anywhere. Yet the legislature will not change up and say, okay, we need to do active shooter drills as often as we do fire drills, and flip-flop them. Do a fire drill every quarter or every 6 months. Do active shooter drills at least once a month, because active shooter drills take forever. They take too long. And I understand that. But if you don't drill and just get that in your head that this is what I need to do. And that's one reason why in the book, I have two things. One is a blank safety sheet. It's generic. You can use it. Whatever you want to use for your safety plan, use something. You need something as some kind of plan, something short, sweet. Yes, exactly. And you can just write in the names of all the people, have a plan B if that person doesn't show up, have substitutes that are also trained with you. I mean, it's just a simple system to go through. The other thing that actually was a guy out in the county next to ours that says, hey, yeah, he says, I had these credit card size cards that I wrote up with emergency plans on them. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a great plan. That's a great idea. And I found out from a doctor friend, she says, oh yeah, we use those all the time. And it's just a credit card size card that you attach to your lanyard with your ID on it, or copy your, card. And it's just simple. It'll just say on there, what to do during a bomb threat, during a weather alert, during an active shooter drill, lockdown, lockout. And the doctor said, oh yeah, we use those. She says, I don't know all these colors out there. She says, somebody says code orange. I have to look at the card. What's a code orange? So I have that in there. You just download that and laminate it, and it's easy to look at, because I tell you what, you'll hear lockdown drill. I mean, for real. And you're going, what? Okay. Then you figure the steps you have to do, and you're going to go, did I forget something? Bingo, bring up the card. Oh, okay. I forgot to turn the lights off, or I forgot to tell the kids, or whatever. And it's just something, because again, in that kind of situation, and it's been documented, you're going to forget your name. You're going to forget what day it is. Your mind's just going to go somewhere else. And I've had incidents during, it was a real event. It was North County, where I had a friend of mine I worked with. His wife was an assistant principal, and it was a middle school. And across the street, there was an individual who was mad at his mom's boyfriend. Okay. He didn't like the boyfriend. He got himself an AR-15, and he decided he's just going to start shooting things up. So he's outside in the neighborhood. He started shooting the house up. And I guess because he lost it, some of the bullets sprayed over into the school across the street. They go into a lockdown. Okay. Eventually the police showed up and took care of this guy. But obviously they were afraid, he may go towards the school. He had no intention of going towards the school. It was just that they weren't sure. Anyway, afterwards, my buddy talked to his wife, and I was really interested in what happened. And she was very, proactive, had done a lot of drills. She said during this real event, 1/3 of her teachers froze. Didn't do anything. They just completely froze, blanked out. So you don't know. No one knows how they're going to react during an emergency. I was lucky. When during 9/11, obviously, as bizarre as that was, and as bizarre as you're thinking, no, it's just an accident. That plane crashed into the tower. Obviously, when the second one hit, you're like, okay, this is different. This is something, this is not good. And your training just kicks in. I mean, it's just something, you go to another mindset. But I had the fortune of being trained for those kind of emergencies. We trained all the time for that kind. You train for the worst, hope for the best. But when you're a teacher, why would your mindset go to that? You don't get hired for that. You didn't sign up for this. I've had teachers that are so afraid after these shootings, especially after Parkland here in Florida, going, I'm afraid to come to work. Even though you would tell them, look, chances are you got a better chance of winning the lottery than something happening, but you still have to prepare for it. So my whole thing was writing the book. And again, I'm not on here. I don't go to podcasts. I'm not here to sell the book. It's basically just for advice on just preparedness. Prepare yourself for what's going to happen. It may never happen. Hopefully it never will, but just be prepared for it. Just anything else, protect yourself and your kids. So anyway, that was the reason I wrote the book, but kind of going up on a tangent here. But I'll tell you what, James, now, what's happening now? Fortunately, the school year, it's almost over for most places. It's over for us down here. Other north places, it's not going to be over for another few weeks. We're very fortunate nothing's happened recently. I mean, that's, a good thing. But will it happen again? Sure. Is it going to get worse? Yeah, my opinion, it is. Will we be like Israel? It's going to be damn close, because you don't want schools to be prisons. No one wants to send their kid to something where you got armed guards out there. Everything's concrete block. This is where I'm sending my kid. But it's coming to that, because parents are going to request that they're not going to trust this. They're going to either homeschool, private school, where they probably have private security. But I tell you, it's not something that's going to go away. It's not something like, okay, we got the metal detectors, now we're done. Or we have this in place and it's done. It's not going to get any better. You just try to prepare for it as best you can.
I totally agree. I actually just received, it's kind of interesting. I just received a thing in the mail from the state of Tennessee, because I hold an armed guard license, and they said it's effective July 1st. Anybody that's going to do any kind of security around any kind of schools, you have to take 8 hours of active shooter training in order to renew your license. So,
Okay.
hey, that's definitely a good step in the right direction.
Absolutely.
But yeah, you just kind of go back to some of the things that you talked about, that muscle memory, or as you call it, like that mental memory in your book. In the military, when I was in the Marines, it was just repetitive stuff. That's how our minds work.
Yes.
There's no telling how many mornings when I leave the house, I'm going, did I close the garage? Because I don't think about hitting that button.
You just do it.
I just do it. Like you said, with like the seatbelt.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of times I turn around and go back and go, okay, yeah, I did. And I kind of feel silly, but it's things we don't think about that we've done 1,000 times. And I actually was talking to my wife last night when I got in from work, and I mentioned, hey, in his book, he mentions that they should be doing this once a month. And even she was like, what? That's too much. I'm like, those 3 9-year-olds at Covenant, what's their life worth? An hour of inconvenience? And I know from my experience in school, we had downtime. There's a lot of teachers showing movies. So finding that time should not be that hard, but it's amazing. And I'm sure you saw it for years, just the pushback and a lot of simple things that could secure schools. Like I know here in Nashville, they were talking about the little door stops, little $20 door stops. They're like, oh, well, we can't, that's a cheap security measure. It's like, oh, we can't do it because of the fire code. Well, why can't you change the fire code?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm a fire inspector. So yeah, that area, James, you're not going to change the fact on that. There are things out there. There are products out there where they said, okay, we'll put a door stop up so an intruder can't get in, or they'll have a separate assembly where you can take it. There's actually somebody out there with a wall board that's got it now. They can roll over on wheels, put it in front of the door, lock it up, and they can't get in the door. Anything else to keep the getting in the door. And you're right. It sounds like it makes common sense. However,
Mhm.
as a fire inspector and your fire inspectors there in the state would say, if there was a fire, and they're always obviously worried about that, if you're crawling around with no power, there's more likely the power to go out. You're crawling around on the floor with the smoke or whatever, trying to get out. Now you're fishing now for that door stop in addition to unlocking the door, getting out. And I'm sure each state is different. I know in the state of Florida, it's called just a one stop egress, meaning you unlock the door and you're out. If it becomes a
Mm.
two-step process where you have to unlock the door stop, then unlock the door to get out, they won't allow it. And it's just, the other thing is, at the end of the lockdown, whether it's a drill or whether it's for real, how are you going to get back into that classroom? Now, you may be outside knocking on the door, going, hey, it's the police, or hey, it's Principal so-and-so, let me in, because you got the door stop there. And wait a minute, the teacher's going, wait, you just told me not to listen to any announcement or something. I don't know who you are. I mean, maybe you're being held hostage, Principal Smith. So
Mm.
the doorstop thing is just, it's not going to work, even though common sense would say, hey, this should be something we can utilize so no one can basically get in through this door. If something like, if it came down to that, and I told teachers, look, if it's coming down to where you're pretty sure someone's trying to get through that door, take that file cabinet, your desk, anything, and just barricade. It's easier just to barricade that you can move later on. But at that moment, because you're not going to fight. I don't expect anybody to fight, even if that intruder gets in there. And that's another thing. Somebody's training, just like you look at it, and you're like, okay, no, that's just ridiculous, like a comic book thing. Just barricade the door. But back to the idea of, technology helping you out. It's just not something that's feasible right now. Yeah. Are they going to have something that may be perfect technology? Yes. I've had plenty of companies come to me, plenty of companies that said, hey, can we present our product to you and we'll give you a free trial and blah, blah, blah. Okay. All right. Here you go and see what you're going to do. Everybody has an app on your phone. You get the app on the phone. All you have to do is press the app and you've got all this information. You press here for all the list of all the administration. You press here for this, press here, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So we go and test it out. So we get there and guess what? It's not working on Wi-Fi. Okay. They finally get the Wi-Fi figured out and we're going to go through and, oh, guess what? Yeah, it doesn't work on LTE or 5G. It's too erratic. I said, okay. And this is something you're telling me is something you want to sell to me. And it's not proven. It's not. Eventually, after a while, their IT guy there is, okay, we're good to go now. And then you run through the thing and it may work, it may not, it's glitchy. I couldn't contact this person. Okay. In a real event, no, I'm not going to trust something like that. If you've got a school, I don't care how big it is. Once the school day starts, you have one entrance only. Everything else should be locked up. But like I said previously, James, what's going to happen? You got a pizza delivery coming. You got a teacher who's going to prop that door open for a smoke. You got somebody who'll prop it open for, I got to go to work, so I'm going to exit out this way. You got a kid who texts this other kid, his friend. He says, yeah, I'm late. I don't want to come to the office and get a tardy. Can you let me in? They go out, open the door. Now, I don't expect these doors to have these emergency, locks on it where you press and an alarm goes off. Some of them you can do that, but not the entire school. But just, and I told this to this girl last week. She was a junior. She's going to be a senior in high school. I said, years ago, they used to have safety committees with students and teachers. I said, that's got to start up again. I said, you kids, you're the ownership of these schools. It's your school, for God's sake. I said, start a safety committee. And all that is just talk about what's happening, be involved in the drills, be involved in whatever questions the teachers or administration has, and start walking around the school. Now, some schools, especially down here in Florida, I'm glad they did that. They have special resource officers, armed special resource officers, which is a good thing. But they can't cover everything, even though they've got little golf carts running around. As a student, just get a committee to that. Just walk around the school. What are you looking for? Open doors. Open doors. That's the biggest thing you got to look to keep those darn doors closed. And that way, anybody that tries again, they got to come in through that front entrance. And that front lobby all should be locked down. That's something where you'd walk through, you only got one entrance into that lobby. Once you're in that lobby area, the administration people there are going to decide whether you're get in or not, you know? And that again is a process. Yeah, it costs money, but that's a process where they can only be buzzed in. The other thing that's been talked about is bulletproof glass. Bulletproof glass is unbelievably expensive. It's just again something that it's not feasible. It's not. If you already have glass, now it could have worked in Nashville. I'm not saying it's technologically perfect. You can get the window tinting, the shielding that you put over it, and that's supposed to, again, prevent the shooter from breaking the glass with however many bullets they put in that window. Eventually, it's going to go. I mean, it's just going to wear out. But that was just an option that we used for a little bit. If you've already got glass, otherwise, I wouldn't recommend having glass doors or glass in there, anyways. But it's a step-by-step process. Look, when I started my school system, this was back in 2014. I started in 2014. They're still using codes. Their code was code red, code blue, code whatever the heck it was. I said, why are you using codes? Oh, we've used codes for years. That's what works. I said, well, what if you got some visitor that comes in there, some maintenance person or some parent visiting or something? You're going, hey, it's the code red. They go, okay, code red sounds bad. What does it mean? And that was their lockdown. I said, why aren't you using plain language? Are you just saying it's a lockdown? Oh, because we use code. No. And thank God we got that stopped finally. But I tell you, there's still schools out there that use codes, which is just crazy. Just use, you know, plain language. I had elementary school, and I mentioned this in the book. It's elementary school, obviously kindergarten, might have been pre-kin, all the way up to 5. And I went there one day and I said, what do you do for your lockdown drill? Well, we make the announcement that the pony is being delivered today. I thought she was joking. I looked at her, I said, you say what? Yeah, because we don't want the kids to be, over anxious about doing a lockdown. I said, no. I said, no, that makes no sense at all. I said, if you got a visitor, they're going, they're delivering a pony today. I'm going to call my buddies, my kid up here for a pony ride. No, just use plain language. And they were looking at me like I was nuts. Oh my God, the horrible, this for the children. Well, I tell you what, kids are not naive. They're not. And I mentioned 2 examples in the book. One was I had a principal who liked to trick his teachers. He liked to, kind of set things off on these drills and was good. You can't do the same drill all the time because otherwise you just get bored. So he took a bullhorn, and it was a school that was an open area in the middle. So it was, like a U-shaped school. Anyway, he went out there during the drill and he said on the bullhorn, the drill is over. We're all done. Everybody come out, back to teaching. Well, his teachers that had been there for a number of years knew it was a trick and they didn't do anything, but he had 2 substitutes there that said, okay, back to teaching, open the windows, open the doors. And the kids yelled out to the substitute, no, it's a trick. Don't do it. It's a trick. They know. They're not that naive. I've had other 5th graders. I had a school that had a 2nd floor. It had glass doors that entered into this cubicle that held 5 classrooms. One of the teachers is designated during the lockdown drill to go out and lock those glass doors. And when I went back in and talked to him, I said, well, is there a plan B? I mean, what if you're not here that day? Oh, then so-and-so is designated. I said, what if there's a substitute? And then she just kind of looked at me. Okay. So anyway, while I'm talking to this teacher, one of the kids in the class goes, I know where the key is. I know where it is. Where is it? He goes, it's out there in the fire extinguisher. It's hidden in that cabinet. I'm like, oh my God. I said, do you guys want to learn how to lock the door? Yeah. I mean, these kids jumped up like it was a 5-star day. I had each of those kids go out and lock that outside door. I said, you guys are heroes. I said, if your teacher faints or if your teacher's not here, go out and lock those outer doors. So even 5th graders, I mean, they're not naive. They know what's going on. I mean, do they get anxious like everybody else? Probably, maybe. You try to make it a game of, the real little kids, the kindergarten, 1st graders. But yeah, they're a little more sophisticated today, maybe too much. But yeah, they know what's going on. They're not I'd say innocent in one sense, but they're not dumb.
Yeah, just kind of touching on what you was talking about, the bulletproof glass. I think when they were looking at the Covenant shooting in hindsight, they talked about that film. basically it's just designed to slow them down. Eventually, they're gonna get through it. But I forgot what the actual dollar amount was, but it's not near as expensive as you would think just for that film. And it's amazing that we spend more money than any other country in the world in our education, but
Mhm.
unfortunately, safety is
Yeah,
kind of,
that's down on the list.
yeah, not on the list.
Wait on the list. When I've got superintendents that are telling a D school, 'cause we grade schools just like you grade kids, that you need to get up to a B or a C, the pressure's on. And when you tell the school we're going to run a drill, they like kind of roll their eyes, going, "Oh no, I needed to get back to teaching," because obviously they're afraid. They don't want the school close, or the teachers be fired, or the principal be fired. So you run into stuff like that. But again, usually, and as you've seen, James, unless something happens, if something kind of just, "Oh, we haven't had a school shooting in 6 months." All right, now do I have to drill this month? No, let's skip it and go to the next month or whatever. So it becomes, it's hard to say, but
Mm.
even when the media, let's say you get a shooting, it's one or two people, that'll be on the news cycle for about an hour, 2 hours. You get numbers, you get 50, 60, 100, whatever the number is, then it's on there for 3, 4 days. I mean, then it's just an emergency. You bring in all these supposed experts that get on there, going to tell you how to take care of all this stuff. And it's just kind of crazy because from my perspective, from what I've seen, what I've heard, the mentors that I have, there's very few people that are experts. This field is one of the, I don't want it regulated. However, there's no training, there's no certificate, there's no, you know, bachelor's or master's degree that's going to say you are now an expert in school safety. It doesn't work that way. I mean, most of the time you're going to have former law enforcement, former military, or former administrative people that get into this field and consider themselves experts. Anybody can call themselves an expert in this field. And unless your peers come up and say, yeah, okay, he is, or yeah, like, no, you're just in the business. It, it's, it's just basic. I want to keep it obviously at the state level. The federal government has no business in this. They don't. I mean, they can come in and say, "Oh, we're going to do run, hide, fight, or we're going to do this or that," but that's just a suggestion. They should leave it in the state's hand and in the county hands how to handle this kind of stuff. However, you're going to get what I would call, for lack of a better term, ambulance chasers. You're going to see an event like this, especially with Nashville, and I saw it on LinkedIn, where you got people on there saying, "What a horrible tragedy! Give us a call, and we're there to help you." Like, wait, what did you just do? These people are freaking
Mhm.
grieving. The whole community is grieving. And now you're coming in saying, "Oh, hire us because it's not for free and we'll help you out." In hindsight, you're going to do, where the hell were you before this? And it's just, it really makes me angry because I'm not in that business. I'm a consultant. I'll go and consult for you. And in fact, I'll probably most more than likely do it for free. You get me out there, I'll help you out as much as I can. But when you've got a business person that starts a business and continually gets on there and says, "Hey, we've got a holistic approach," because that's the new item now. The new school security word is holistic. We've got a holistic approach of how we're going to help your school and all these issues and your county with these issues. And let us come in and, we're going to help you out. Like, what? No, there's no such thing. There's no such thing. These so-called experts will either have run, hide, fight, Alice training, or whatever other acronym you could come up with and say, our system works, blah, blah, blah. But really? Do you have data on that? You have any data that what you're saying or doing is working? This goes back to Columbine. Everybody goes back to Columbine. When Columbine started, look, there were school shootings way before Columbine. Back in, and I'm going to date myself now, I think it was in the 50s. It might have been more earlier than that. In fact, I think it was early before that. There was a bombing in Bath, Michigan, little small town. And there was an insane guy there. It was a book that just came out recently. And this insane guy got on the school board and he said, "I disagree with the taxes I'm paying as a farmer for anything to do with the school that we have here." So they fired him, got him out of there, but he still remained in the community. Anyway, he ended up killing his wife, blowing up his farm, and he got into the school system with explosives. And he had explosives all over that entire school. And this school went from K up to 12. Fortunately, only part of it went off. The bomb went off and it killed a number, a lot of kids and teachers. And fortunately, the other part of it didn't. And he shows up. And it was just the weirdest thing. He drives up in his pickup truck. He had a real issue, I guess, with the principal of the school. Shot the principal, blew himself up. It was just this, it was just horrible, horrible tragedy. But this is many years ago. So there's been school shootings up until then. Now with the media coverage, it's like, God, to focus on it. And don't be talking about cell phones. It just, there's no reason, James. I know you don't have children. My kid's 16. He has a cell phone. We gave it to him, I guess, 11, 12 years old or whatever. Most kids now, 11, 12 years old, need a cell phone. There's no reason to have cell phones in a school. Absolutely no reason for kids. I'm talking about kids, not adults. Children should have cell phones in the schools. What for? When I was a kid, if my parent needed to get a hold of me, you call the front office, get Dan down here. I want to talk to him on the phone, blah, blah, blah. This has happened. Okay, back to class. If I'm a teacher nowadays, it'd drive me nuts. I said, no, put them away. And I talked to this one girl last week who was the same age. She was 16. And I said, how do you deal with cell phones in your school? It's just, well, some teachers allow it. Not meaning have it out and open, allow them to be on. Other teachers want you to put them in your backpack and not have them at all. Mm. Well, if you're allowed to have it, it's just like years ago with the notes. You're hiding it under your desk, you're texting, you're TikToking, Snapchat, whatever the hell you're doing. And what happens is two things, incidents that I've had happen when dealt with cell phones. One is what's called swatting. And you probably heard about swatting. What'll happen is someone will call into 911 and say, hey, there's an active shooter at XYZ school. You better get there now. They're killing people. And boom, here the police come. I mean, lights and sirens, here they come. And you get to the school and the school's like, the hell are you doing? Why are you guys here? So that it happens at people's homes also, at private homes with this swatting incidents. It's happening at schools. The other thing is airdropping. And I think airdropping, I want to say it's 200 feet. It might be less than that. What happens is you'll have someone with an iPhone, or I think they can even do it on Android, and they will airdrop a message to another phone, and it'll be threats. You'll have threats on there going, I saw Johnny with a gun. I saw this one with a knife. I saw whatever, like hell. So now you're going to a lockdown because someone airdropped a threat. The other thing that's happening is I've had two incidents. One was a bomb threat. One was a bomb threat of a school of 1,200 kids, but next door was a middle school with another 800 kids. So despite my saying, do not evacuate, they decide to evacuate everyone, all out of the high school, all out of the middle school. Okay. This is a North County school here, all very, very white, very inclusive, very elite. So what happens is as soon as that you start to evacuate, well, that starts a process. As you know, now you got to get the fire department there. You got to get the police there with the dogs. Now you're searching for a bomb that doesn't exist because there was no device. It was just a threat. That's it. Just a threat. No one said in that threat, did they say a particular classroom, a floor, a room number, a teacher's name, anything that would pinpoint where this possible bomb is. No, it's just a threat. Well, why are you evacuating if it's just a threat? Well, the reason I got was, if even one student dies, blah, blah, blah. So you're going to take 2 hours out of the day and disrupt everything, everyone's schedule, the students, the teachers, and the parents because of a threat of something that there's no device. There's nothing. Yes. Okay. So the consequences were, now you've got everybody evacuated and they go however many feet away, 1,000 feet away, whatever that they suggest. Now you got to bring in the fire department. You got to bring in the dogs. Everybody's got to search. It's a minimum 2 hours to search that entire school. Okay. Guess what? The kids with their cell phones, what are they doing? They're texting. They're texting anybody that will listen. There's a bomb threat at my school. Parents get this. It goes out of social media, bang. And guess what? Here they come. So you've got 1,000 parents at least heading to this school, messing traffic up, trying to get into that school. I had to have a fire department. I had to have a ladder truck block the road so the parents couldn't get there. Like, we're not even set up for that yet. So the other thing that starts happening is they'll start texting rumors. Doesn't matter. I mean, how are they going to get in trouble? Hey, I saw a package with wires. Oh, I saw this thing. I saw the backpack on such and such floor. There are wires sticking out of it. I saw a device, and it goes on and on and on. And it just is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Okay. If you're in an active shooter situation, you want to say, I love you, mom, or whatever, something's going on. Okay. Yeah, you can do that. But I don't want someone out there with a cell phone saying, yeah, I just saw a device and, the bomb's going to go off in a few seconds or whatever, because it disrupts everything. I also had a high school where a student reported, yeah, I saw so-and-so with a gun in the bathroom. Okay. You got to take everything seriously. Going to a lockdown. Here come the police. So now we got to search this school. It turned out to be fake. Okay. But you still got to go through the process. They sat there interviewing this kid for hours. He wouldn't admit to it. It was some kind of weird drug deal that didn't go through. So he got pissed off and he said, yeah, there's a gun in the bathroom. While that's going on, now you get the rumors again with the cell phone. Here come the parents. Oh, yeah, I saw Johnny with a gun. He was in the other classroom. I saw Susie with it. So this goes on for hours and hours dealing with this crap because they got to have a cell phone. They got a message out and it goes to social media and it just creates this chaotic situation. So this is girl. I said, what's the pros? What is the pros? I know what the cons are. What are the pros of having a cell phone in a classroom during school time? There are none. They're none. What? I tell you what, a pro as a kid, yeah, you can cheat. There you go. I can send a message to my buddies. I can play games. What the hell are what are the pros of having for teachers I don't want to be on here just venting, but from my opinion, absolutely no reason to have cell phones in schools. What I want to do, I know we're running out of time, James. Two things. Number one is special resource officers, armed special resource officers. Been a pushback because of defund the police, BLM, whatever the hell else is going on out there. You want armed SROs in the school system. I don't care if there's an SRO in elementary school of 30 kids. You want that SRO there. These people go through specialized training. They are allies. They are not adversaries. They're allies for students, parents, teachers, administration. Well, these people are like the cream of the crop. They are not a Walmart guard sitting out there or even the ones at the airport. These people get specialized training. They know what the hell they're doing because they're dealing specifically with students in these schools. And the second thing is if you go through these drills, you go through this training, you keep yourself safe. And I'm talking to the teachers, I'm talking to parents, talking to their kids. Keep yourself safe first. Once you're safe first, then you can help other people. Don't put yourself into a situation where you're going to get in trouble, where you're going to be the hero and go out there and challenge somebody. Keep yourself safe, then you can help other people. And it's the same thing you do when you're up in an airplane and the oxygen mask comes down. You're going to put that oxygen mask on yourself first, then you can help other people. So that's the main thing I want to get out of this is that what I like and what I push for is more drilling, more training, SROs, and to keep yourself safe in the situation.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the SROs. I know when I was in high school, we had a SRO, nice guy. But going back to when you're talking about like the cell phones, when I was coming up, we didn't have cell phones in class or anything like that. I think it'd help with a little bit of the mental health of our children just to realize that, hey, to kind of disconnect for 6-7 hours out of the day. Maybe those lockable bags, like when you go to like a concert or something, when they don't want you to film it, you drop
Sure.
your cell phone in there, they lock it. Then when you come out, they unlock it.
Get back. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah. The media and the way things were, when it was unfolding here in Nashville, I just sat back and I was like, we won't know the truth for another couple of days. I said, they're just
no,
spouting out numbers and,
I know you wanted to talk about that. And from my opinion, that report should be released. We need to know what she was thinking. We need to know what was going on just for the purpose of if something happens again or use that intelligence to see what they're thinking and
yeah.
what what was going on. So it's better because otherwise it's just like, gee, who shot, JFK? It's like, come on, put that information out there. Let us see it. And if you want to redact some of it, okay, for whatever purposes, if you're still doing investigation, fine. But I'd rather see it out than being hidden.
Yeah, what they're saying about the manifesto is, well, we don't want to give somebody else a blueprint to how to do this. From what little bit I've heard about it, that person was targeting other places. So to me, I think, wouldn't they like to know that, hey, you might want to beef up security?
Exactly. I agree.
I'm a firm believer if somebody has hate in their heart, they're going to find a way to
Yes.
harm other people.
Right. And it doesn't matter what kind of weapon they have. It's not a
Yeah.
gun issue. Again, that's not in my, well, it's in my lane, but it's not something really
No.
worth talking too politicized. But yeah,
Yeah.
you've seen, and I'm sure you've heard, there's other countries that have shootings. The media doesn't pick up on it. I had something on LinkedIn just last week where two different incidents in Brazil happened with knives, and one of the students in middle school, believe it or not, brought in these Molotov cocktails, and we're just going to light the school on fire. So it's not about the guns; it's about the criminals and bad people that we're dealing with.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't want to keep you any longer. I know you probably got things to do. I could sit here and pick your brain for hours.
Have me on again, and if you don't mind, I'd rather have your dad read the book and get his opinion on what he thinks, how he deals with that. Get information from him because obviously he's on the ground dealing with this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And then invite me back. And if you want to bring on a guest or whatever like that, or if you have people that phone in questions, absolutely. They can get a hold of me or we can do this again. I'm on LinkedIn. I know my last name's kind of, messed up, but I'm sure that'll be, and again, read the book. Again, it's an easy read, first 5 minutes, and it's on Amazon. And you type it in there. Usually, will come up with my name in there. But yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, and I've got information, and my email's on there. So if anybody's got any other questions or something they're concerned about, sure, they can get a hold of me. Be glad to talk about it.
I'll definitely forward the book on to him, and I definitely would like just ask him, hey, what's y'all's protocols? Because, like you said earlier, everybody thinks, hey, it couldn't happen to us. It's not going to happen to us. And you look at here in Nashville, that's a pretty affluent area, private school. I'm sure many of them, it would never happen to us. This happens to public schools. So
Right.
you just don't ever know because the shooter in that situation went to school there.
And that's what
Um,
we've seen. Most of these shooters are former students or current students, and they're watching. They're looking to see what happens, how you run your drills, what doors are open, what time do they leave, how can I get in? And, they figure things out. They plan this out. Obviously, we know she planned it out, with that manifesto and all the stuff on the
Mhm.
internet. Yeah, interesting to see. One thing about your dad, they may have their hands tied because I've had a lot of teachers come up and say, look, my school system runs it this way. I can't change it. It has to be changed by the legislature, changed by the school board. And
Mhm.
that's why I encourage not only teachers, but parents to go to the school board, ask their kids what's happening, go to the school board. How are you handling your drills? You know, that doesn't seem right. They're elected officials. So find out how they're running their drills and how they deal with this. Or write your legislature saying, hey, what are we doing? What are the laws on doing these drills? So that's why I like to get parents involved also.
Oh yeah, I look forward to next time I see him, talk to him about all of this, and definitely get his input. And if he's got any questions, I would definitely love to have you on again. Like I said, I could pick your brain for hours. Very knowledgeable man. But like I said, don't want to keep it any longer. Thank you so much, Dan, for being on, and look forward to chatting with you in the future.
Terrific. Sounds good, James. Appreciate it. Thanks for being on the show and good luck. And yeah, stay in touch.
All right, that was my interview with Dan Deluzneski. Had a wonderful time talking with him. Had a wonderful time reading his book. Just want to say again, I highly recommend it. It's available on Amazon, very reasonable price, and it is again called The First 5 Minutes School Shooting Survival Guide for Administrators and Teachers. So if you have somebody that's in that field, it's definitely worth giving as a gift. As always, if there's any topics that you want us to cover, or if you know of any guests that might want to be on, please let us know. The easiest way to get a hold of us is through the website, freedomanger.com. All my contact information's in there. Just drop me a line. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And with that said, I hope everybody has a great rest of the week. And if you like the podcast, please follow. Talk to you later.